Need to talk about this photo, because this was the only photo found in Michael's camera after he mysteriously passed away. Michael's mom had suspected that something was wrong for weeks, because all around the house she's been seeing shadows coming from the corners of her eyes, but she thought it must be her imagination, until she realized all the family members living inside the house felt like they were being watched. Then one day Michael ran into his parents' bedroom screaming in fear, saying he saw a man in the mirror with a distorted mouth, his face wrapped in some kind of sheet. That was the first time anyone in the family actually came face to face with whoever or whatever was living in their house without them knowing. Soon after that, Michael passed away suddenly, but his parents knew something else was going on. That's when they found a note hidden in Michael's bedroom, and all it said was, "I got it, Mom, check the camera." Follow for more.
Japanese yokai, Doro Tabo, the muddy monk. Doro Tabo are spirits of old men who toil hard on their rice fields. They appear as one-eyed with 3 fingernails rising up from the mud at night. The Doro Tabo are spirits of vengeance and rage. They roam the overgrown fields calling out in a mournful, "Give me back my rice field." The Doro Tabo continue haunting until the wasteful owners change their ways or give and flee.
This girl was found frozen in ice after 6 hours, but what happened next shocked everyone and left doctors speechless. Jean Hillard was driving home during a blizzard in Minnesota when her car skidded into a ditch. Her friend lived nearby, so she started walking. It was negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit outside and the wind was blowing into her face. She reached her friend's driveway but just couldn't go any further, and just 15 feet from his door she collapsed on the ground. She was in the snow for 6 hours and turned into a human icicle. Her friend came out and saw her like this, frozen and ghost-like. At the hospital, she was so frozen doctors couldn't even open her mouth to put a thermometer. Her skin was so hard that a needle broke when they tried to put it in her. The doctors then decided to put warm packs of water around her body. And in just 6 hours with no amputations and no brain damage, she was conscious and speaking with her family.
Creepy facts you didn't know about the Philippines. If you hear a knock on the door around 12 a.m., don't you dare open it, ignore it, and go back to sleep. If you hear an ambulance and a random dog barking, it means the patient will die. If you see a white lady, do not fake your praying or she will join you.
This is crazy, bro. The song Stairway to Heaven, if you play it backwards, it is the most demonic thing you'll probably ever hear. I'm just gonna play it for you.
Okay.
This is it backwards. Like...
When people said stuff like that, it was just because those were older parents back in the 80s
Yeah.
or whenever these songs came out, and they were like, it's the devil music, you can't listen to it. So they're just like making up stuff like that. I've never actually heard that before. That blows my mind.
There's no way that by accident on a song called Stairway to Heaven, you're spewing the most satanic things backwards. And then if you read the lyrics, a lot of the song doesn't make any sense forward.
Really?
It seems as if they like figured out what words backwards sounded like what in order to like
make it happen.
We need to talk about the poem that kills you if you read it out loud. Tamino's Hell was written by a boy in Japan whose parents were really strict. And once Tamino wrote this poem, which included some pretty terrifying details, his parents locked him in a cellar and refused to give him any food as punishment. Eventually, Tamino passed away in the cellar, hungry, in the dark, and alone. So it's said that Tamino's spirit now haunts this poem, and anyone who reads it out loud will be cursed, with the same feelings of helplessness and despair that Tamino once felt, and also extremely bad luck, including accidents, sudden illness, or even loss of their voice. In 1974, a director actually created a movie inspired by Tamino's Hell, and unfortunately, a few years later, he succumbed to liver failure. One girl was in college when she came across this poem, and her friends dared her to read it out loud. Within 1 week, she passed away mysteriously. Maybe these tragedies have nothing to do with Tamino's curse and they're just coincidences. Or maybe the spirit of Tamino still lives inside this poem. Let me know if you're brave enough to read this and follow for more.
What are some of the craziest things that have happened to people while they've been hypnotized? I'm going to share with you some of the wildest stories I've found. And if you like stories like this, I think you'll like my podcast. On August 23, 1995, 2 girls in Belgium disappeared after being hypnotized. That night, they had gone with a group of friends to a hypnotist show where both of them were called up on stage. They were both hypnotized on stage, and they did classic hypnotized person things like eating a whole lemon thinking that it was a peach. They were unhypnotized after the show, but they continued to have strange behavior. Video footage found later of the girls at a train station after the show showed that they were still behaving very strangely. They seemed really out of it, like they were holding their bodies in really weird positions and walking in the opposite direction of the train. Neither of them made it home that night, but both of their bodies were found a year later on the property of Marc Dutroux. Dutroux was a monster who had committed this type of crime before, but many were left wondering if the girls being hypnotized put them in an extra
In 1945, 5 young men set out on a fishing trip on Lake Michigan. They never returned. After an extensive search, no trace of the men or their boat was found. Nearly 40 years later, in 1983, a recreational diver discovered the wreckage of the boat in the depths of the lake. What was even more shocking was that the bodies of the men were still inside the boat, perfectly preserved by the cold, dark waters. But that's not the only eerie part of this story. The boat's radio was still in working order, and investigators were able to listen to the final distress call made by the men before their disappearance. In it, the men can be heard frantically pleading for help, describing a strange, glowing object in the sky that seemed to be following them. The cause of the men's deaths and the mysterious object in the sky remains unknown, but the chilling recording of their final moments has left many wondering what really happened that fateful day on Lake Michigan.
This is the true story of a mummy found on a ghost ship. 2 fishermen off the coast in the Philippines noticed something very, very strange. They came across a yacht that was half submerged in water and quickly ran over to check what was going on. But as they got there, they had no idea that it was about to get even stranger. The body of a mummified man was slumped over a desk as though he was about to make a mayday call. Manfred was a German explorer who was last seen off the coast of Spain in 2009. When they found his body, they assumed he must have been dead for years. Authorities quickly came in to investigate to try to determine the cause of death. They found that no foul play had occurred, and he'd actually died, unfortunately, of a heart attack. But it still gets freakier from there. His body was perfectly mummified, so even though they assumed he must have been dead for at least the 7 years that he was drifting off at sea, he'd only been dead for 7 days. It was the hot weather, intense winds, and salty air that actually mummified his body so quickly. He was found with photos of him and his wife, as well as a note to his wife. And the note in itself was also pretty creepy. The note read, 30 years we've been together on the same path. Then, the power of the demons was stronger than the will to live. You are gone, may your soul find its peace. You are Manfred. As far as we know, those very well may have been Manfred's last words. They recovered the mummified body, but so far, nobody has come to claim it. So, authorities are left baffled, astounded, and without very many more answers from there. But this story might definitely make you rethink sailing out into the ocean on your own. Hey guys, my name's Bella. If you like these kind of stories, hit that plus button for more. I do spooky and I have videos. Until I see you guys next video.
Plastic surgery gone too far. Sarah Tabar wanted to look like Angelina Jolie. And now looks like this. Henry Rodriguez wanted to look like Red Skull. And now looks like this. I ordered a baby from the dark web. This is what was delivered. This isn't a baby, it's a silver thing. Let's open it. This is a pregnancy test. It smells strange. It's positive. What am I supposed to do now? A creepy used preg test.
Let's talk about the lore behind the most disturbing common enemy in the Resident Evil franchise. The Revenant from Resident Evil Revelations 2. This one is gruesome. Revenants are the result of Alex Wesker's experimentations with the Ouroboros virus, the same virus that Wesker uses in Resident Evil 5. But Revenants aren't made from just injecting the host with the virus. It's much, much worse. They take various body parts from humans that have already passed away and stitch them together with thread and metal. Then they inject that Frankenstein corpse with the virus. And because Revenants were made in this weird and disturbing way, they actually have full control over each individual body part that was mashed together. But what happens when you combine multiple Revenants together and give them the virus? You get something even worse. a Durga. I really think Alex Wesker made some of the most disturbing BOWs in the franchise's history.
One of the scariest lockdown photos I have ever seen in my life. On April 16th, 2010, in Newcastle High School, they went into a lockdown procedure. Somebody comes over the intercom and they say that there are reports of a dangerous individual who's inside the school. When this happens, Angela Germain just stays in place. She stays in the girls' bathroom and she ends up sending this blurry photo to her friend Kelly, and she's like, "I've got to stay in here, oh my god." What she didn't realize was that when she sent that picture, in the dimmed emergency lights of that bathroom, she had captured and she's like, "I've got to stay in here, oh my god." What she didn't realize was that when she sent that picture, in the dimmed emergency lights of that bathroom, she had captured the intruder who was hiding behind the end stall. But by the time her friend even notices the face and tells teachers and police and they get to the bathroom, Angela was found stabbed more than 15 times, having later succumbed to those injuries. Because of Angela's final photo and 2 other witnesses in the school, they do make a composite sketch, but they would never find this person. The only thing that we have left is the
Did Nikola Tesla really know the secret behind the pyramids? According to Tesla, the pyramids were more than just ancient tombs or architectural marvels. He believed that they held a hidden power, a mysterious energy source waiting to be unlocked. Tesla speculated that the pyramids were designed to harness and transmit wireless energy, tapping into the Earth's natural electromagnetic field. In his view, these majestic structures acted as gigantic power plants, capable of transmitting energy across vast distances. Imagine a world where electricity flowed freely, wirelessly, without the need for cumbersome cables or grids. Tesla envisioned a future where the pyramid's technology could be harnessed, revolutionizing the way we power our world. While Tesla's theory remains speculative, it challenges us to think beyond conventional wisdom. It sparks curiosity and invites us to explore the mysteries of the past. So the next time you gaze upon the pyramids, let yourself wonder, could there be more to these ancient wonders than meets the eye?
Let's talk about the true story behind Candy on Hulu and Love and Death on HBO Max and how Betty Gore was axed 41 times. Betty Gore was born on January 9th, 1950, and while she was attending college, she met a teaching assistant named Alan Gore through one of her classes. Two of them immediately hit it off, they began dating, and in 1970, Alan and Betty decided to get married. Soon after their wedding, they had their first daughter named Alyssa, and after this, they decided to move to the small town of Wiley, Texas to start a new life. Now, at first, their marriage seemed to be great. They were very in love with each other and they were excited to grow their family. However, according to reports, Betty did struggle with anxiety and occasional depression. Alan would often have to travel for work, so this meant that Betty was home alone with Alyssa, and this would just cause her a lot of anxiety. She would constantly be calling his office to check in on him. She would call the hotel he was staying at just to talk to him. The traveling was causing a lot of issues in their relationship, and since they had just moved to a new town, Betty didn't really have a lot of friends. She wanted to be more active in the community, so she decided to join her local church, and that's when she began making friends. She started to become friends with a woman named Candace Montgomery, also known as Candy. Both sang in the choir, and the reason they started to become closer is because Betty's daughter, Alyssa, started to grow closer to Candy's daughter. Now, a little bit about Candy. She was married to a man named Pat Montgomery, and the two of them lived a very comfortable life in Wiley, Texas. Her husband had a very good job, so she was able to stay home and take care of their 2 kids. And she had a very nice house. They actually called her house the party house because that's where everyone would get together to hang out. She was friends with everyone in the community. I mean, she was kind of like your typical PTA mom. Even though Betty had joined the church and had started making new friends, things between her and Alan were still not good. She even confided in her friend Candy and told her that her and Alan did not have sex. She just didn't know what else to do or how to get the sparks going again. However, Betty ended up getting pregnant with a second daughter, and she thought that this would change things between her and Alan. And it somewhat did. He was excited about their second daughter. Candy was excited about this as well. She even threw Betty a baby shower at her own house. Alan even told Betty that they were going to take a trip to Europe, just the two of them without children, so that they could reconnect and just be with each other. So it seemed like things were going well. On Friday, June 13th, 1990, Alan was away on a business trip in Minnesota, and Betty was at home taking care of their newborn daughter and getting everything ready for their trip to Europe. Their oldest daughter, Alyssa, actually spent the night at Candy's house, and she was supposed to come back later that day because she had swim practice. However, Alyssa and Candy's daughter really wanted to have another sleepover, so Candy called Betty and asked her if it was okay if Alyssa spent another night there. Betty told Candy that Alyssa had swim practice, and that's when Candy offered to go to Betty's house, pick up the swimsuit, and take Alyssa to practice. So Betty agreed to this plan. Later that morning, Candy stopped by Betty's house to pick up the bathing suit, and then she left. As the day continued to progress, Alan called the house just to check in on Betty, but he wasn't able to get in contact with her. He called one of the neighbors to go check on Betty, and that's when they discovered that Betty was dead. Okay, more in part 2.
Let's talk about this picture. This is why if I ever have kids, I'll never let them use the bathroom alone. A 7-year-old girl and her mom were headed to Target, and she was getting some clothes for school. Her mom also wanted to grab some snacks for movie night. So while her mom went to go grab popcorn and other snacks, she told her daughter to go pick out clothes for school. When her daughter finally finished and picked out the clothes, she went up to her mom and said something strange happened. A sad pale lady had came up to her, telling her that she wished she could have her own daughter that looked just like her. The mom, who thought the daughter was just joking around, laughed it off and said, "Let's go." While heading to the register, the daughter shook her mom and said, "That's the lady who told me she wanted a daughter just like me," pointing at a mannequin. The mom laughed, thinking the daughter was still being silly. You know how kids have wild imaginations, always playing around. While at the register, the daughter had to go to the bathroom, so the mom told her to hurry up. It was only a couple hours down, by the way. While in the bathroom, the daughter texted the mom saying the pale lady's in here who wanted a daughter. The mom, trying to get in a rush back home to her other kids, said, "Hurry up, we have to go. Stop playing around." 10 minutes later, and the daughter never came out. The mother, who was waiting outside the bathroom at this time, rushes in the bathroom to see what the heck is going on. The daughter was nowhere to be found. She even checked the stalls to see if her daughter was hiding, standing on a toilet or something. On one of the stalls, she found her daughter's cell phone on the floor. By the way, if you made it this far in the video, comment down below your favorite fruit. Mine is mangoes. When she checked her phone, this was the last image found in it. Police still to this day have no explanation on what happened to that little girl.
Washing dishes with Ted Bundy. She had no idea her friend had already led 17 women when this photo was taken. Let's enhance it with sharp AI. Many believe the only reason she was safe was because she was blonde, and Ted Bundy targeted brunettes, as they reminded him of his ex-girlfriend. He reportedly thought about murder 3 or 24/7s, so even at a birthday party with a smile on his face, are his eyes revealing? Watch the Conjuring Universe films in chronological order. The Nun 1952. Annabelle Creation 1955, Annabelle 1967, Annabelle Comes Home 1970, The Conjuring 1971, The Curse of La Llorona 1973, The Conjuring to 1977.
This is why you don't want to go out in the woods alone at night. Reddit user Hellraiser K says that he lives on a 13-acre property in rural farmlands. He says that he lives on the same property as his parents, and that they converted one of the farmhouses into their house in the backyard. The thing about where he lives, though, is that while he lives in a wide clearing, beyond that clearing, they're surrounded by woods on 3 sides. Needless to say, they don't get many visitors out there. He says that from the time that they moved into the house about a year ago, there's been some occasions where they get this inexplicable feeling of fear and terror. He says that he's been in the woods his whole life, but for some reason, the woods in this area are different. In every other place he's lived, the woods are like home, but here, he feels as if he's trespassing on someone else's home. He goes on to say that the other night, he was walking his dog pretty late. It was around 11 p.m., so it was pitch black outside. The only thing that was casting light were the floodlights coming from his house. All of a sudden, he heard a sound that sounded similar to an owl's hoot. The thing about this sound, though, was that it almost sounded like a person imitating an owl. So, Hellraiser K decided to say, "Ha ha, very funny, Dad," since he assumed it was his father closing up the barn for the night, and he was trying to scare him. The thing was, though, after he said that, nobody called back. He says that his dog's hair raised up on his spine, and he started to give a low, menacing growl in the direction of the noise. He says that he's never seen him act this aggressively. Suddenly, while they were staring out in the pitch blackness, he heard the same fake owl sound come from only a few feet away. His dog suddenly jumped and started barking. Hellraiser K got so scared that he grabbed his dog, scooped him up, and took off running. Then, he started hearing laughter coming from behind him. The next morning, he went out to where he heard the sound coming from. It turned out that it had been coming
from the barn. But upon examination, the barn doors were broken off the side and were swung past each other the wrong direction. And there was no signs of any intruder. Hellraiser K says that he has no idea what it was that was making that noise, but that it had to be pretty strong to break those doors. What do you think this was? Someone trespassing on his property, playing a prank on him? Or could this have been something else? Maybe a skinwalker? Or a ghost?
Do you think there's anyone there just now?
Yeah, I do.
Who's that?
What?
Who's that, Janet?
Pardon? Stuart Certain.
Stuart Certain, and he's one of the voices.
Yeah.
Why do you think he comes and speaks through you?
To annoy us.
Does he ever say anything nice?
Don't know really.
Shall we try and speak to him? No. We'll see if he'll speak to us.
Yeah.
Is anybody there?
No.
Who's there?
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who?
Goose Chase is here.